Is Muma a star or is he just a really good linebacker? We're going to talk about that now on Locked On Badgers. Plus, which future linebackers excite us the most? Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings, as always. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. FanDuel.com/lockedon. And let's get Justin. Let's get Rajiv. Let's go, guys. So we're starting off with the first question here. We talked about this before. Maema Njongmeta, is he a star linebacker or is he, and I don't want to say merely, because a really good linebacker is still incredibly valuable, but is he just a really good player?
Rajiv.
Oh.
I think we're muted. Ryan.
Oh, are we good?
I take the blame.
Ryan
I was like, wait a second. My mic is okay.
You will not hold us down.
I was stealing his thunder. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
You just really don't want to talk about Muma. Yes, I will start talking about Muma. He is an absolute star. This guy, look, he had 95 tackles last year, Pro Football Focus grade of nearly 90, one of the top grades in the country. He's a game wrecker, and what I like most about him is his vision, the way he sees the field, the intensity he plays with, the drive he has on every play, and frankly, the guy plays with a lot of heart. I think this is going to be his year to have he's not Leo Chanel, but he's going to have that Jack Sanborn, Leo Chanel type bump where they just have big years. He's going to be the best inside linebacker in the Big Ten. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He will be the star of our defense. I think he's going to have a huge number of TFLs, huge number of tackles, along with Jordan Turner on the inside. He's an absolute star. I think he was a star last year. I think he's only getting better. Frankly, I don't know how more people don't see him as a star. Really just you, Ryan, because I know that you don't, which I don't understand. I don't agree with. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I love everything about his game. And frankly, if we had more guys that played with the intensity that Muma does, our defense would be that much better.
I'm going to say yes. I don't listen, if you're looking for him to do the athletic freak things, I don't think he's going to do some of that stuff, but he's a guy who's going to be highly productive this year. I think he ends up being probably leads our defense this year. I think he's the star of our defense. The only other guy I think that I really look at that's going to be flashy, I think, is Hunter Wooler. I think can be a guy that we see do some crazy things this year, just based off of the skill set, the aggressiveness, the athleticism that he has. But those two guys are the two guys that I expect to see flash plays made. I don't necessarily expect athletic freak things, but I expect them to make plays and be in places to do big things for the defense. I think he's going to be an all Big Ten guy. I think that he has an outside shot at being a All-American type guy. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to be, like I said, the flashiest guy when it comes to linebackers in the country. But I think he is a guy who's going to be so productive that they're going to look at him and be like, listen, Wisconsin's defense is really good. And this is the guy that's leading the charge. And that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen with him this year. I think he's our best inside linebacker. I don't know if he's the most athletic because each of the guys has kind of different things athletically that they do best of the three top guys. But I think he's going to be a guy that puts up some numbers that we're really impressed with this year and that he grows on last year. Ryan, I think you're down on him a little bit because early in the year, both middle linebackers were kind of rough and they really grew as the season went on. And I think that taste is kind of hard to get out of our mouth because defense was kind of not where we expected it to be at times last year early on.
Yeah, a lot wasn't what we expected at times. Really. So my thing with Muma, and by the way, Muma is PFF's top returning linebacker.
That's what I was going to say. He is the top guy.
Right. So listen, there's analytics and numbers that back up. No, I've always said PFF is a data point. It's not the gospel, but it is something I look at. Like it's something all people should look at. Right. I don't see, and Justin, you kind of hit on it while saying you think he is a star. I don't think he has the necessarily the athletic measurables that the really great Badger linebackers in the past have had. Like when we're talking star linebackers, I don't see there's not many Leos out there, right? So let's put that in its own kind of separate category. But I don't think he's as good in coverage as a Sanborn. I don't think he's quite as natural there, or as a Chris or as a good of a blitzer as a Chris Orr, or as good in coverage as a TJ Edwards, right? Like, I think those guys had a little bit more either in the coverage or the downhill blitzing ability than Muma. I think Muma's a really, really good player. Don't get me twisted on this. Like, really good player, and we're lucky to have him, and he's going to make life hell for a lot of Big Ten running backs. But I don't know if he's as well-rounded as the star running backs star linebackers we've had in the past.
Does he need to have all that athleticism to be considered a star? But does he? I mean, if he's putting up star numbers and he's being as productive as he was last year, putting up the kind of tackle numbers, tackles for loss, sacks, everything, if all those things factor in, it doesn't necessarily have to have this eye test of a great athlete. Listen, I'm all for the athleticism. I hear what you're saying about the comparison you're making, but his numbers lend itself to being top linebackers. I mean, PFF's top returning linebacker. That's huge. And 89.9 was his grade last year. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy who is so incredibly productive and plays hard on every play that maybe he doesn't have the flashiness to be a star, but his numbers produce. Those are star numbers. And frankly, that's what it's all about. It's about production. So I'm going to look at that side of it and say, it's really hard to argue that his production is not star quality.
So I'm going to dive in on this. And first off, what I'm going to say is he's going to test out better than Sanborn. I think that's athletically, his measurables are going to be better than what we've seen with Sanborn. I have no doubt about that in my mind. What I will say on that is I don't know if we want to bang the drum for coverage with him, given how we were carved up by tight ends with that team that year. So, I mean, Sanborn was a very good all-around linebacker. I think that there's potential here for Muma to be a step up from that. Like, not huge, significant, but I could see him having 6.5 sacks this year. And I think that I could see him having 14, 15 tackles for loss. Like, he's not going to have a 10-sack season. He's just not that guy. But I think he'll be solid in pass coverage. I think, like I said, he's a slight step up from Sanborn for me. And I think Sanborn was a star on defense. When him and Chanel were here, they were both studs.
And before the show, actually, before Justin even came on, I said that I did not think he was as good as Chanel, but I did say he was better than Sanborn because I think that's where we are. Ryan, I think 4 or 5 games into the year, you're going to come on the reaction show and you're going to be like, yeah, guys,
he's going to have to swallow his
star.
No, listen, I'll say this, and we've done this on shows. Like I did a whole show on things my bad takes, right? So if that's the case, I will wholeheartedly come on the show and say, yes, that he's exceeding all expectations. And that's what I hope for, right? That's absolutely what I hope for. So let's get some of these comments here. A bunch of them. Jake says, are we finally turning Ryan into a Muma believer today? Apparently not. But listen, I really like him.
Give it time, Jake. Give it time.
I really do like him a lot. Zach Bart says Muma is a solid top-tier linebacker with a chance to be an absolute star in this defense. Tyler Straber says Muma is solid, but he's not an upper-tier linebacker. If he was, we'd be talking about a potential first-round pick next year.
I mean, Chanel wasn't a top, not to break in on that one. Chanel wasn't considered a first rounder, and that guy's about as freaky as it gets athletically. So, I mean,
people had questions about Chanel in coverage, though, too. Like, that's the whole NFL thing. But Daltrey says if he's a star, it's because the rest of the team is performing well. Listen, I think he can be really good. I don't know if I see the star quality, but let's move on to. You guys do, which again, I'm hoping that you guys are more right on this than I am, because that would be huge for the Badgers. I don't know. All right, let's move on to we're gonna grade the Rajiv. We talked before the show, but I think it makes sense to actually break out inside linebacker and outside linebacker just for the grade portion. We're still gonna do one show today, but inside linebacker, we obviously talked about Muma. Then you still have Chaney, you have Turner. A couple really interesting young players behind him, Aiden Vaughn, Tyler Jancy, guys I really like. Tatum Grass is still in that mix. How would you guys grade inside linebackers? And then any takeaways you have from that group?
I will give inside linebackers an A. Sorry, Justin, if I cut you off there. Inside linebackers an A for me because obviously we've already talked about Muma. I think Jordan Turner is a great addition to that. And frankly, and we've heard some things from practice and what Tressell has said, like, he really sees Chaney as a 1-2. I mean, all 3 of those guys are really, really solid at the inside position. And frankly, with the depth that we have there and with the star power at the top of that ticket with Muma, I think it's absolutely an A right now.
Yeah, it's an A for me too. I look at it and I would say that I think the top 3 guys would start for any team in the conference. I also think that Tatum Grass is a nice two deep guy, and I think that Aiden Vaughn is a guy who's pushing a little bit, and the other Borland's not. I mean, the other Sanborn is also sounding like he's doing some things, and I think Tyler Jancy is going to be a guy that we're hearing a lot about by the end of the season. I could see him; he's going to do some things on special teams. I could see this year, and I wouldn't be shocked if he finds himself next year in the two deep, definitely, and pushing.
Yeah, I love Tyler Jancy. I had a chance to talk to his high school coach last year on the show. He's going to be good, I think. I'm going A- inside linebackers. It's a great group. Again, I don't want to get Muma's great, and then I love Chaney, coach's son. I really like Turner's athleticism. Tatum Grass, as you mentioned, is really good depth. It's a really strong group at inside linebacker. So I'm going A-. I'm also going A- for the future on inside linebacker. I don't know if you guys gave future grades or not.
We didn't. I would say I like what we have coming in with some of the young guys. Gauthier is a guy who I like as an athlete, and I think is going to be really good, and similar to kind of a cross between the elder Sanborn and Chanel. I think he's a little more athletic than Sanborn. I think he's a guy who's going to have a good frame. He's a little bit bigger than some of the other guys that we have in that room right now. So I think that he's going to be a really good player. I think Janzy's going to be a good player. It'll be interesting to see if we start getting a little bit more athletic in that room and lighter, where we start getting some guys that are maybe in the 225 range, but are a little more coverage type linebackers. But we'll see how that goes. But I like what they have right now coming into the next few years. I feel really confident that we're not going to have a significant drop off in that. I would say B plus A minus range for me.
I'm saying A-. I think it'll be a bit of a drop-off after Muma leaves, but I do like the talent. And it's just hard to project. I mean, some of these guys we're not going to hit on the inside. Hopefully we are. I also agree Jancy's the guy I'm very much looking forward to, but A- for the future.
Yep, I think we're all on mostly the same page there. We're going to take a quick break, come back with outside linebackers, plus some superlatives, over-unders, any of these linebackers getting over 6 sacks. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Birddogs. Love me some Birddogs. I've talked about Birddogs a lot. Again, they are the pants and the clothes and the hat that keep me from looking homeless. Birddogs is comfortable, casual, stylish. We went home. I think a lot of people knew I went to Wisconsin recently, and I had to do a family reunion, and I wore my Birddogs because they're the only adult clothes I have that I feel comfortable in. And that's what Birddogs do for me. They keep me from looking homeless. They get me into the family pictures without my wife looking at me like I'm, because I would have wore basketball shorts otherwise if my Birddogs weren't there. And that's not a good look for professional photography. So Birddogs, they make my legs look good. They send you a great hat. Birddogs are incredible. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or enter promo code lockedoncollege for a free white tech hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or promo code lockedoncollege for a free white tech hat. I wear it. It's incredibly comfortable. Great for summer. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. All right, let's keep going on the show here. Really do want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Let's get Rajiv and Justin back in. Unmute you guys.
I want to take a second here and just be like, I just picture Ryan's mom talking to the photographer being like, can you Photoshop like a different outfit on him?
That's why I got Birddogs.
Take off the Wisconsin basketball shorts. Can you put some nice like plaid or something on him? She's got Ryan looks like he's all done up.
Let's go behind the curtains here. My wife went to Walmart and bought a shirt for me to wear. And then I had my Birddogs on. Like he's
got a holy t-shirt on. He's like, no, we can take pictures. This is professionally.
Yeah. Ryan, I mean, on this topic, when we go to the Ohio State game at the end of October, are you really going to be wearing basketball shorts in the end of October in Madison? That's incredible. I don't know how you do it.
Did I tell you guys really quick? Again, this could get segued for a bit, but I did no coat winter in Connecticut because I didn't want winter to tell me how to dress. Like I stood up to winter and I just wore no coats that year. It was terrible.
It's not an impressive thing to do. To stand up to winter.
Ryan died of pneumonia.
Yeah, like Oregon Trail. Ryan died of dysentery. Let's go outside linebacker here. This position's fascinating to me. I want to just start with grades. I'm at a B for outside linebacker for this year. I think it can be higher though. I like the upside of this group with Peterson and Bollers, but they just haven't shown anything, in my opinion, anything that really gets me incredibly excited. Like we knew with Herbig right away. I think the jury's still out here, but I like the upside, which is why I have it as a B.
Yeah, I think I would go with a B too. It's so hard to tell with these guys. I mean, they're guys we had a really high expectations from a couple of years ago, and nobody's really popped yet. I'm really high on Bollers, honestly, coming into this year. With his frame, I'm very curious to see how they use them coming into the season. But at 270, with a big frame and ability to and definitely more athletic than the guy that's going to be across from him when he's playing up against tackles, it's going to be really interesting to see how he plays this year. I'm hoping Peterson really starts to click this year finally. He's a guy we all felt really good about. I'm hopeful that we see that from him. But there's a lot of potential there that we just need to see it. And Piotrowski, he's a guy that I feel like he's somewhat proven it while he's at Michigan State. It'll be interesting to see how that translates here. Sounds like he's in the 2 deep. I'd really like to see if he can get some of that working for us here this year. If he can be a guy who gets us 3-4 sacks as a second teamer, that'd be great.
So I'm going to B- with the outside linebackers, just a little bit lower. I agree with the other guys. A lot of upside. Really like Petrowski and what he brings. I've just been fairly underwhelmed with what CJ gets, and I just don't really feel like there's really much there. Peterson, a lot to offer there, and Bollers, man, the guy's put on 12 pounds. He's up to 270 now. He's a monster. We saw him in the spring game. He was big. So he's going to be interesting. How the outside linebackers are going to be used in this defense is, to me, one of the big storylines and what it's going to look like. How many down linemen are we going to see? Who are we going to see rushing? And how much coverage are these guys going to have to do? And some are going to be in like a hybrid safety type role too. So I think that's why I really can't give him anything higher than a B-, because the unknown is huge. This group could end up being an A in a few weeks. This group could end up being a C or a D in a few weeks. So I really just don't know. I totally agree. A lot of upside. Probably Petrowski and Bollers are the people I'm most excited about seeing. I do think Peterson will be the most consistent guy that we have, and he's probably going to end up being the guy in that group. And he's probably the biggest lock to be a guy this year. The other guys where we see that potential, we're not really sure where they're going to be. B- for me. And I guess I'll start with the future grades. I think pretty much the same, maybe a B, because I do like what we have coming in. But I just feel like, and also with this defense, it's really hard to project future because we really have no idea how these guys are really going to play and what this is going to look like. We're seeing some good practice notes. There's a lot of activity at the outside linebacker position, but I just feel like this is going forward. It's going to be a bit of a question mark for us even into the future.
Yeah, you want me to give my future grade quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm giving him a B+, and that's because I think Lafayette is going to be a stud. I think he is going to be a legit NFL type outside linebacker. And I think that room, he's going to be the guy that flips that room. He's going to come in as a freshman and push for playing time as a outside linebacker. And
it's believe with Justin now. Like that, there's the optimism that Rajiv is supposed to be bringing. I'm also B+ here. I for everything Justin just said, Lafayette, I absolutely love that dude. And then Thomas Heiberger, I've talked about it.
Yes.
If you're talking about an NFL ball of clay, whether he gets there or not, I don't know, because he's playing nobody in South Dakota.
If those two hit, that room is an A+, because those are two guys that potentially you're talking top 3 NFL draft round.
Like that dude is ridiculously athletic.
He's a first round type if everything hits.
So I'm interested there, but yeah, I'm more with Rajiv on this year's class. Matthew Anderson says Bollers, Peterson, Petroyski should all be pretty good. Getz, not goats. Getz is steady Eddie. Witt could be a wild card. I'm just done one. I just can't.
If he can play,
yeah. Like I'm picturing him in a motorized scooter going out on the field, being like, "All right, doesn't matter anymore. I'm just gonna play on this."
Yeah, I did a whole thing on it. Like, I feel terrible for him.
I do too.
Right? He is an NFL type of a frame and ability and package, but like at this point, what people need to realize, and this one I don't think people talk about enough, is these dogs barking. I'll just mute him for one tiny second. What I think people don't talk about enough is Aaron Witt isn't just going to get back healthy and be 100%. Like he's missed years of reps of conditioning, of live
technique
tackling.
work. Yeah.
It's not as simple as now he's healthy, let's unleash the Aaron Witt monster. Like it's gonna take time, even if he gets to that point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take a quick break here. Come back with some practice thoughts from Justin Rajiv, plus a couple over-unders, a bunch to go into with this linebacker group and with practice. So we're going to go back with that on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Rajiv and I did a whole show. Listen, people called me crazy. I had someone on the Locked On channel reach out and say, yeah, that was crazy. But we talked about undefeated season, plus 1,900. Badgers, listen, there's only one scary team. That's on FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. College football starting right now. Pick, use your bonus bets with the Super Bowl. If you pick the Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. And you get bonus bets for spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Earn bonus bets now. And think about that plus 1,900 Badgers undefeated season. I don't think it's crazy. I don't know. Maybe Rajiv is wearing off on me.
Finally.
All right, let's talk really quick, couple over-unders, because I want your guys' thoughts on any practice notes or items that are interesting to you, because I talked a little bit about mine yesterday. Let's start here. Over-under Muma, 15 tackles for loss.
Over. Easy. I actually helped set this over-under, and I wanted to go over.
I don't know
17 is my number. I think that's what he's going to get. The guy he's such a game wrecker. Honestly, star all day. I believe he put up a poll. I want to hear what the results of this poll are that you put up, by the way. We can't see it, but wow, he's absolutely a star. Yeah, 17 is the number that he's going to have. He had 11.5 last year, not 12, 11.5. Ryan corrected me. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have a bigger role this year. Absolutely over.
15 is a good number. I'm not going to lie. That's roughly where I'm kind of sitting at. Cause my gut instinct when we started talking about his tackles for loss I was thinking 14.5. I'm going to go optimistic. And I'm going to say he gets to 15.5. So I'll go with the over.
Yeah. Shocker. I'm going to take the under. Listen, 15's a lot.
It is
for a linebacker.
That's why I said 15 is a good number, but it's high.
Muma can have a great year and finish with 14 or 13, and that would be a really good year. We've had several really good previous Badger linebackers not get to 15. Not to mention the fact that he did get a little dinged up already. He should be fine, but that could linger a little bit. I think 15 is a tough number to get to. So I'm going to go under, not by a lot though. Let's go next one. Let's see here. Over or under any? Well, this is more of a true or false. Any of these linebackers getting to 6 sacks, and if so, who are they?
I think yes. I think Muma has a chance. I think, honestly, any of the three, I don't know. It's only going to be one of them, but I don't know who it's going to be out of the inside three. I think Chaney's has some great pass rush to him. It wouldn't shock me if he gets there. It's really going to depend on how they split those reps up. Sounds like Turner's been a guy who's done pretty well too. So I think one of those inside guys, it wouldn't shock me if Bollers does actually hit and they use him as a pass rush guy, if he somehow figures it out and gets there. But with him not having a ton of actual in-game reps, it's hard to say that he's going to reach that point. We could have a lot of guys that are going to be at like 4.5, 5 this year.
Yeah, I think that we are going to have people with 6. And one of the reasons I think we are is because teams are going to be chasing us a little more. There's going to be a lot of passing, a lot of dropbacks. We're going to be in pure pass rush mode several times. So I think Muma goes over 6. I think Bollers goes over 6, and I think Chaney goes over 6. Those are 3 that I think are going to have the biggest impact because I find them all to be really good pass rushers. And we're going to be in a situation where pass rushing a lot. And I mean, just if the offense does what we think it's going to do, therefore, I think we're going to see just overall sack numbers are going to be up on this team.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Rajiv. And if we all kind of discussed defensive line not seeing a huge pass rush coming from that group this year, not that that's going to be nothing, but if you think we're going to be in more pass rushing situations and you think the defensive line may not bring it to the level it has in the years past, that the pressure has to come from somewhere, right? This team isn't going to have no sacks. So I'm also going to say, yes, a couple linebackers are going to go over 6. I think it's going to be Bollers. I'm going to go there. And one of the inside guys, I'm just not sure who. I'm just not sure if it'll be Muma, if it'll be Chaney, if it'll be Turner. I think all those players are going to have 4 to 6, right? I think it's going to be spread around, but I'm going to say Bollers and one of the inside guys, and put a gun to my head, I'd probably say Muma is where I'd go with that. The thing with Peterson, I would love to get your guys' quick take on Daryl Peterson. I feel like he looks the part, and like he's huge. He's got a big frame. He came with a recruiting pedigree, great high school career. But to me, it doesn't seem to translate on the field as easily as it should.
Yeah, the hurry numbers were kind of concerning last year. I don't think that he had great numbers for that, and that's kind of why it's hard for me to project him to have a huge year, Because if that's the case, then he clearly wasn't getting close to getting home. And that kind of tells you, okay, well, something's got to change here dramatically for him to be more, assertive and aggressive and being able to make an impact. Last year wasn't a great pass rush year. So, I mean, he had opportunity. So it's one of those things where you kind of look at it and say, the opportunity is there. You got to prove it this year.
I think he's going to do okay. I mean, I feel like I think that he's going to be one of the more consistent guys this year in this new defense and the new roles that they're going to play. I think he's just a consistently good player. He's not going to be great. He's not going to be this incredible outside linebacker, but I think we'll end up seeing him having a very solid year in that position, very dependable. I think he is going to have a good year, and I think that the new coaching staff, the new schemes will benefit him.
I love this quick comment here from Tyler Streeter. Peterson reminds me of David Gilbert. If you remember David Gilbert, like an absolute just physical beast, but it didn't really ever come quite together. I think that's a great comparison. Joe Frickleton says, I believe in Daryl Peterson. All right, guys, let's do a little rapid fire here with the linebackers to finish up, because I definitely want to give you guys opportunity to talk about what in practice has surprised you, interested you. Really quickly, the young linebacker you're most excited about. So somebody that isn't going to play a lot this year, could be a recruit, it could be someone came in last year. Who are you most excited about for the future at this position?
I will say, Tyler Jancy, absolutely a machine. He's so aggressive, and the way that he just hits the hole really quickly and he accelerates into plays, which I love. I love the fact that he's not just trying to let the play come to him. He's going to get the play. I think he's going to be an absolute star for us.
Yeah, I already brought him up when we were talking outside linebackers. It's Lafayette. He's a guy who I think that he will get reps day one. I think he's that good of a player that if he understands the defense, they're going to be putting him out on the field because he brings something athletically that we don't have, and he's more polished than Heiberger is at this point. So it's a matter of him just being more ready to be out there on the field. And that's the big deal to me. It's like you see what he brings, that motor that he has. There's just none of these guys. I'm not trying to dog any of the guys that we currently have in the room, but it's like when we had who was the one that just got drafted? Why is he missing? Not a man playing for Pittsburgh.
That just got drafted, Herbig?
Yeah, Herbig, yes. I'm sitting there thinking, it's with an H. He's so much like him in that the motor just never stops and that he just keeps coming, that it's just something that we have not had. One of the guests in the message board mentioning Christian Allegro too. He's a guy athletically that projects pretty well. I think he's a little raw, but I think he's a guy that could definitely provide something down the road.
Justin, he said rapid fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was rapid for me.
There's no such – I had the same thought, Rajiv. There's no such thing with Justin. A couple really quick questions here, or really quick comments here. First of all, TJZK says, sitting in Madison for son's orientation. First of all, congratulations, man. That's awesome, right? I also went, yeah, that's awesome. Good. He said, high optimism season can't get here soon enough. Guys, we didn't do this one. Scott McFarland, when we talked defensive line, Varner plus or minus 7 sacks. I know we're talking linebackers, but this is a great question. I'm going to go under because I just don't know if he's going to be fully healthy for the beginning of the year.
Totally. I mean, he's getting time right now in practice. He's out there a little bit, but yeah, under, just because we don't really know what to expect. And 7's a big number.
Yeah, he had 7.5 last year with 10 games. So I don't think he's going to get to 7, but I would think he can be a 5.5, 6 guy.
And 5.5 from the defensive end spot would be huge for this defense.
Yes, it would.
Justin, other Justin says Buffalo over under 9.5 points in week 1. I'm going to say over, but I think that's a really good line. Yeah. I don't think it's much over that.
I'm going to say under, and I'm going to say that because I think that we're going to come out on tear, and I just don't know what Buffalo is anymore. It's not the same program that it was with the previous regime that was there. So
over, just because they're going to be chasing us the whole game. They're probably going to get a few long ball touchdowns. I think they'll get 10 points.
All right, let's kick it over to you guys. Rajiv, we'll start with you. I talked a lot about just kind of the random things about practice that interested me. What about practice has excited you or interested you here?
Well, I'll start with Bryson freaking Green. Wow. I mean, all we hear about is that guy. Some of the highlights, some of the things that we're reading about, he's going to be incredible. He's going to be exactly what we hoped he's going to be. We're so deep at receiver, and that just got sort of validated through the practice and through camp. So that's great. Special teams woes is concerning to me. I think that we were really excited when we got the transfer in, but I think punting and kicking is going to be what's going to be difficult. And I'm hoping that we're not in a lot of these games. We're up by a lot, that it doesn't really matter. But early on, we're going to have to watch special teams. We saw in the spring game there were some difficulties, and for some reason, we can't really seem to get this rolling from a kicking perspective. So I'm a little worried about that. Glad to see Renfro back getting second team reps. Obviously, the idea, he's got to switch into the first line. Bordolini's having some bad snaps. That's not what we want to see. We saw that at the spring game. So, look, I'm really hoping that Renfro can continue to develop and not develop, but just get better, get healthy, and take those those front reps. Varner playing is great. And lastly, tight ends, Riley, I don't know his last name, Nowakowski. Converted fullback. Excited to see, someone that's a little bit different, and he's playing well. He's actually getting those first team reps with Jack Pugh, so that's exciting. I hope that he does well. And one other last thing I'll say, right before camp, Longo had a fantastic interview where he just was very open and answering a lot of great questions. And there was a little moment where he smirked about how great he thinks the offensive line is. And we did an offensive line show, and we talked about there's a little bit concerns, but he doesn't have any concerns. And I think that's really, really telling. So I think that just seeing the way he reacts and saying that, teams are going to have issues that inside the 20 without a great offensive line, but we don't have that problem here. And he gave a smirk. So I'm really excited about that. That really tells me a lot about what he thinks about the offensive line and how he feels like he can run his offense with such a deep line. So, that's what I'll say.
So honestly, I'm going to dive into it, and I'm going to say wide receiver room, number one, being absolutely jam-packed with talent. And it sounds like the cornerback room is actually keeping pace. It sounds like we have some bodies in there and some talent in that corner room that has made them work for it, which is a big deal, because if we have improved corner play this year, it can make a world of difference for this. And I think we're going to be very aggressive in the front seven, which is going to give those guys opportunities. So I really look forward to seeing what the defense is. Ashcraft, it sounds like, has started pushing and getting some reps out there. So the young tight ends, I don't know what that says about how they feel about the tight end room. I think the guy has talent, but whenever you're a freshman's pushing, it's always, is it because the room is weaker than we expect, or is it because that guy's a dude? I think there's a little of both.
Yeah.
And then honestly, the running backs sound like they are what we thought they were. They're going to be guys like the top two guys are going to go out there and they're going to make hay in this offense, which is going to be a big deal for Wisconsin.
And they're both going to play on the field at times too. We've seen some of that this week about, being both in the field at times. I also want to mention the safeties. We're going to be so good at that position. I mean, with who we have with Wooler and Latu, and then Blaylock and Austin, like there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of depth. And I feel like overall, like Justin brought up the cornerbacks, I wrote that down, but I didn't say that. Good point. The entire defensive secondary is absolutely going to be the strength of that defense. And we haven't had that a lot over the years at Wisconsin. We haven't really said, look at our defensive backfield. And they're going to be a lot of those guys on the field making a lot of plays. I think they're going to wreak havoc on Big Ten offenses.
I was going to say something about that, actually. Is this the most athletic safety room we've ever had?
Yes. 100%.
It takes 100%.
No, and I'm saying, because I'm going back to even Barry days. I can't remember. I can't remember a group back then that was that athletic.
If we went back to Barry days, we may have to take a second and really think about it.
We would. We would, but I can't remember guys that were like physical freak shows.
I would say
they were very like talented and like assignment sure guys.
We have had some freaks at safety. I think this is
not the depth though that we have.
Not the depth. Certainly not the depth. Joe Frickleton, I wanted to throw some of these comments in here before we roll out, said Alexander Smith is going to be a lockdown corner. He's a stud. Like the secondary is so good this year.
And he's struggling. He's struggling with some of these receivers, which tells you all you need to know about the receiver.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. Joey Hanna asks, is Luna Larson still on the team? No, he left the team. Former walk-on 3-star in-state linebacker. Really good film, but he left the team. I will say a couple people commenting on Ashcraft as well. Mike says Ashcraft will be our best tight end at the end of the year. Corey said getting first and second reps. If you guys remember, this is a guy I said I said this guy's going to potentially play this year. He's really good. I thought that was a great pickup for them down the stretch. Now watch him not play at all, and I'll just edit this out. But, I really like the pickup because he is a college-ready body who could move pretty well. Mike says, wonder how Snowden is doing in practice. We've gotten little blurbs here and there. Not much on that.
He just is starting as a freshman with no spring ball. It's going to take him some time.
Daltreed says, from articles I've read, it seems Chim could be receiver number 1. Thoughts, Justin? I'm not letting you get started on this. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
You want to see it? Go to the Discord.
It would be a bridged version.
Yeah, honestly, I expect him to have a really good year. I think there's 4 or 5 candidates that could be the number 1 guy. So I think that's all I'm going to say on the topic. Is I think that there's a lot of guys that potentially provide different things for different situations.
I mean, honestly, how exciting is that? The fact that we don't even know going into the season whether it's going to be Chimera, whether it's going to be CJ, whether it's going to be Green, whether it's going to be Pauling, and what Bell will do out of the slot, and what Countess Lewis will do, and Vinny Anthony, and the list goes on and on.
Bell low-key having a really strong camp so far.
Yeah, I mean, to have that much, and we still don't even know. But the good news is that everything we've heard coming out of camp is, yep, they're as good as we thought they were. Right. The entire group is as good as we thought they were. Because, frankly, over the last few months, we've all 3 of us have spent quite a bit of time hyping up this wide receiver room, and for the right reasons. And they're actually doing it on the field now. And boy, I mean, it's going to be so exciting to watch them.
In case people haven't seen it, Longo has actually said it's the deepest room he's ever had for wide receivers. And that tells you all you need to know with the wide receiver rooms that guy's had.
Longo loves this offense. He loves the players he has. And Longo's going to tailor it to the strengths of what we have, especially the guys in the backfield. I'm really excited to see what Longo does because you can just tell the way he talks, how he is really happy with the guys we have all over that offense.
Well, and you said something great. Who knows who's going to be the number 1 receiver, number 2 receiver? Yeah. Well, flip that around to a defensive coordinator standpoint, going into a game planning against Wisconsin. Who are you putting your number 1 corner on? DK, sure. We're going to throw it to Bryson. Move your number 1 corner on Bryson. Fine. We're going to exploit Pauling in the slot and then CJ. Like if we can't figure it out, and the coaches are, it's going to be hellacious for a defensive coordinator to figure this out.
And they have to put like, I mean, who's the 4th best corner is going to go against CJ Williams? Like, I mean, when we're all out playing 4 or 5 wide, the defensive backs are not going to have any clue what to do, and they're not going to be able to cover these guys.
Commandant says, I'm looking for big things out of Pauling. Badger Pat.
So is Longo.
I want to play. I want to play PJ and company tomorrow. Jake Mayer says, Longo said at the press conference, the thing he loves the most behind his wife and children is slot receivers. What a legend.
Listen, that press conference was fantastic. For those of you who haven't watched it, it was right before they went to camp, and I watched him and Tressell. Really, really good press conferences. Just opened up about everything. They were very forthcoming. There wasn't a lot of coach speak that you get out of the head coaches sometimes because they're kind of trained to talk that way. It was really, really insightful. So if you haven't seen that, check it out.
It's a good change of pace. This is from Bo Dragon. Do you guys play Magic the Gathering? You guys look like you would. I would crush that game. I would be an amazing dungeon master.
Never have.
What are you trying to say? What's wrong with Magic the Gathering?
We don't. I don't think.
I don't.
Definitely not.
I would crush that game though. Let's see. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there, but I really do appreciate it. Daltreed says, "Is this how it feels to be an Ohio State fan?" Not quite yet.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there. Mike says, anxious to see my favorite recruit this year, Decluna. Love this tape.
He's going to be a dude. Mm-hmm. They're very high on him, and he's impressed for a freshman.
Yep. He's providing really good depth.
Yep. All right, let's wrap it up there. I didn't get to every comment as always, but we'll finish on a good one here from Scott McFarland. Wooler's going to be incredible if he stays healthy, playing safety, outside linebacker, and edge for this defense. Yeah. He might be the star of the defense. Yeah. I mean, if it's not Muma or Smith, it could be Wooler.
It sounds like the coach feels the same way. Or the coaching staff. They're very high on him for this year.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you as always for everybody tuning in. You guys are incredible. Corn Planter says, love the show. Bless you guys. Oh, thank you, man. Really do appreciate it. And for everyone else I didn't get to, obviously we'll talk again tomorrow. A bunch more content coming up. Brian Smith this week, still a couple coaches. Obviously these 2 incredible people will come back on. And on Wisconsin.